Live from Lakewood, Colorado, broadcasting at the Colorado Media School studios, it's Sports with Staxxx and Shaggy.
Jokic gives it back. Murray, shot clock to 9. Here's Murray off 1 foot. Oh, goodness. From Jamal Murray, what a shot! In the clutch, off 1 foot.
Just walked off under his own power on third down. Locke looking end zone for Sutton. And the diving attempt. Did he get it? Touchdown! What a catch! The first NFL touchdown for Drew Lock, and his parents love it in Denver.
Check swing roller. Tulowitzki. Colorado's the National League champion.
And good evening, everyone. We are live from the Colorado Media Campus here on the Be On Air Network. How you doing, man? It feels good to be in your presence, Shaggy. How you feeling this evening?
Feels good to be in your presence as well, Staxxx. I mean, every day it seems like we're getting better at this, but at the same time, it feels like every day we got something else to learn.
Every day, but every day it seems like we debate about something. We were debating about a few things before the show started.
I know. We'll get into that a little bit tomorrow. We got a little bit of a sneak preview. We'll tease you guys that we're going to predict the Broncos' schedule in the middle of the show tomorrow, but let's actually get into it today.
Well, let's get into it. Well, right now we got a little bit of Fight Island going on in Abu Dhabi. Jake, I know you're a big fight guy. Recap a little bit what's going on in the UFC world.
All right, let me cue up some Ron Burgundy real quick.
Let's hear Rob Burgundy. My bad. I always skip Rob Burgundy.
You can't be skipping Ron.
I forgot he's part of the show.
There were some things going on in sports today that will make your brain fall out of your skull. Because I've got nothing here. You're giving me baseball and hockey, and I got my keister blowing in the wind.
It's sports.
All around the clock. Sports all the time.
That's the concept of the news.
Oh, that's never going to work. That's ridiculous.
Thank you, Rob Burgundy. Jake,
yes. Thank you. So I'm only going to really be getting into the main event. I mean, it's a fight night. It's the middle of the week. I mean, we already talked about this before. I mean, not many people are probably going to be getting into it. But Calvin Cotter is going to be fighting against Dan Ige tonight. And Calvin Cotter is 21-4, and Dan Ige is 14-2. It looks like it's going to be a pretty good fight. Check it out tonight.
Dan Ige, you sound like Danny Ainge. You sound like the general manager of the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, it's only IGE. Ige.
Oh, Ige. It don't start with an A?
No.
Oh, okay. I was going to say that. You know, Danny Ainge's grandkid's getting his ass kicked tonight. It looks like.
Right? Looks like someone's going to be not coming home tonight with some teeth.
Oh, no. Not at all. But as we want to get into some more relevant news with the free agency, the deadline to extend free agents and extend contracts for today was at 2 o'clock Mountain Time, with the players getting their deal done. Yesterday, of course, we touched on Myles Garrett, a little bit of Chris Jones. Today, some of the players getting theirs, including Derrick Henry on a 4-year deal. Now, it seemed to be that Derrick Henry was going to get a franchise tagged with a few other names that we'll get into a little bit later who got franchise tagged. Would have been disappointed if Derrick Henry got franchise tag? To me, I definitely would. This is a guy who was a juggernaut through the 2019 playoffs, ran through the Patriots defense, ran through the Ravens defense. He got slowed down by the Chiefs, which I think shocked everyone. That defense definitely stepped up. But go ahead.
Derrick Henry is the only running back that I've seen to turn a defender into his own blocker.
Yeah, and see, with that physical power style that Derrick Henry showcases on the field every Sunday, is it really worth having him for 4 years and extending his contract? We've seen with Todd Gurley the deterioration and the decline of these running backs. Is Derrick Henry going to be like an Adrian Peterson, a guy who stays in the league for 10 years? Adrian Peterson still, I believe, with Washington.
Yeah, so
or is he going to be like a Todd Gurley?
Yeah, so I've always felt like the running back position is an empty well that you could just keep throwing money into. I mean, you could really find running backs at any avenue. You can find them at any college. I mean, running backs come from anywhere. You can find them off the street. Mm-hmm. It's not like the early 2000s where you have all these running backs that are like, single back systems. You don't have like these Ahmad Greens, these Clinton Portises. It's a different NFL. I mean, these running backs need to catch out of the backfield. Now sometimes these teams have 3, maybe even 4 running backs on their system or their roster that they're using. I mean, the Patriots, the 49ers, the Ravens, Saints, those are all teams that are good in the NFL, and look how many running backs they have on their roster.
And a lot of two-back systems, mainly because the league in the last decade has leaned towards the pass game for sure. But I think signing Derrick Henry to 4 years, it's a risk in itself. It makes sense to sign someone who had a 200-yard rush performance in the playoffs. But at the same time, with someone who runs that physical, as I mentioned, his longevity is in question.
Yeah. So, I mean, going back to what you were saying earlier about the franchise tag, I feel like the NFL should just abolish the whole franchise tag. The whole franchise tag, the idea of it, I mean, the whole reason that a team will give you the franchise tag is they don't trust you enough to give you a long-term deal. So they're basically putting you under a short leash saying, all right, well, I don't trust you enough to be under a long-term deal. I want to see how you play in these next 2 years. I mean, the franchise tag is so unfair to these players. I mean, they're still making these crazy contracts, but it's so unfair to the players. I mean, if I was a player, I want a long-term contract. I want long-term security knowing that if I get hurt, I have money guaranteed to me.
Mm-hmm, yeah, and talking about franchise tags, one of the Broncos players, Justin Simmons, who was what we'll get into later as well, was ranked one of the top highest safeties in the league. He was franchise tagged today. The previous year making only $4 million. This franchise tag will consist of him making $11 million, or a $7 million dollar difference. With the guy who of his talent, and he's very highly touted. The only thing that worries about me of franchise tagging, and the main thing that worries me about that is if he has a phenomenal season. Now he has a chip on his shoulder, of course. You put in Justin Simmons' mind that he hasn't proven to the organization that he's worth an extension. So now he's going to play his butt off. He's going to probably have one of the best seasons he has. And now, yeah, you bring that spark out of him, but now you have kind of he's on sour terms with the organization. Well, yeah, you didn't really believe in me last year that I could produce like this, when he was producing phenomenal this year, 80-plus tackles. Mm-hmm. But you didn't give me that contract the year before. Maybe I go somewhere and deuces. I had this good year for you. I've proven myself. Now I'm going to go give me a bigger contract somewhere else.
Yeah, just to clear up the numbers. So in his career, up until this year, he had made $4.3 million in his NFL career. And then this year, signs the NFL franchise tag at $11.44 million, which if you look at the top paid safeties in the league, that puts him at number 7, right behind Patriots safety Devin McCourty at 11.5. So he's making about $600,000 less than Devin McCourty.
Now, another point of view looking at it is the Broncos could be being very manipulative. They could think that, Simmons, they could have an expectation that Simmons is not going to have that great of a year. So at season's end, and just pay him for the value that, we always thought that he was, underpay him. I honestly think Justin Simmons is a top 5 safety. Maybe top 10, top 5, or top 10 looking outside of the top 5.
I feel like he's a top 5 safety in run support, honestly. His run support he plays really good in the box, honestly. He's a good box safety.
And just I feel that there's 2 ways you could look at it, that at the end of the season that he extends his contract just because he underperformed a little bit, and the Broncos pay him what, he produces over an underperforming season, or he has a phenomenal year and he leaves. I really think if he has one of the best defensive years out of
the safeties,
throughout the league, I could think there's a big potential him leaving opposed to him wanting to stay.
Yeah, and I could agree with that. I mean, if he has a crazy year and he puts up, like, let's just do a hypothetical. Let's say he puts up more tackles. He has about 90-something tackles. He has about 5 interceptions. He has about, let's go 10 to 15 pass deflections. He has 1 or 2 sacks. That's a pretty good year for a safety. I mean, is he really going to want to be put under the franchise tag for a whole nother year and make? No. He's going to want a long-term deal, and he's going to look for a team to give him that.
The messed up thing about the franchise tag is how many years is it that a player could be franchise tagged?
1 year. It's a 1-year deal.
So why was Kirk Cousins all those years getting franchise tagged?
Well, that's because they never
straight years.
Yeah. So though. Yeah,
two. All right, so I figured that
it's 1 to 2 years. It's a 1 to 2 year contract. But the reason they kept giving him that contract is because they didn't trust him long term to know if he was the quarterback. So the franchise tag is a deal to say, all right, I don't trust you long term, but I want to see what you could do in these next 2 years, these next 1 or 2 years, see if you can like prove up to your contract. And
if you're Washington, backtracking a little couple years back, if you're Washington, would you keep Kirk Cousins? I mean, he hasn't been anything exceptional in Minnesota. He has had a phenomenal defense, something he's never had in Washington. But talking to, you right now, if you're Washington, you're stuck with Dwayne Haskins. Would you, if you're Washington, would you have extended Kirk Cousins, or would you have gave him those? Did they do the right thing franchise tagging him?
So actually, I want to add into this. So if you look at the 2018 Redskins, were actually 6-3 with Alex Smith, and they were actually in playoff contention until Alex Smith broke his leg, ironically on the exact same date and time as well as Joe Theismann.
Went on the same leg?
Yeah, it was on the same leg too.
So too coincidental.
But after that, the Redskins had finished off, I think it was losing 5 out of the last 6 games and finishing the year 6-10. So they were in playoff contention, lost Alex Smith, fell down, and basically were a shell of themselves after. So that offense really thrived with Alex Smith in that system, and I really think they miss a quarterback in that system. And Dwayne Haskins, he's not the answer. I mean, there's never been an Ohio State quarterback that's been the answer in the NFL. I mean, I can go down the list. Braxton Miller, Terrell Pryor, they're NFL, receivers now. Troy Smith, Cardell Jones. Cardell Jones now plays in the XFL. I mean, Ohio State quarterbacks, they're good in college, but I mean, look at the talent around them.
It's a college system.
Yeah, the college system. And I mean, even then, when your college system is producing NFL wide receivers and NFL running backs, you don't have to learn how to make all these crazy crazy throws, because you're already throwing it to a receiver that can, his catch radius is 6 yards behind him and 6 yards in front of him.
Yeah. Well, bringing this all back to Justin Simmons, I think it'd be very disrespectful as if you find a scenario the Broncos franchise tag Justin Simmons back-to-back years as how the Washington Redskins franchise tagged Kirk Cousins. Yeah, it is a different position for sure, but I think, it's hard to come across once-in-a-generational defensive backs. Quarterbacks, it seems like, it's hard to come across a Patrick Mahomes and whatnot, but it's not hard to come across at least a decent quarterback nowadays, for sure. Of course, with how the league has leaned towards more of the passing game, finding an average quarterback and a quarterback who is at least above average seems more likely than what it was back then.
Well, think about it. You got the Manning Passing Academy. You got Jason Palmer's league. You have all these leagues where these quarterbacks are being funneled through, and they're, the talent level. I mean, even then, we compared the drafts from the 2010 to 2014 to 2015 to 2019. I mean, look at the quarterback difference. I mean, you have E.J. Manuel being taken in the first round.
Oh, yeah. Don't get me started with those Florida State quarterbacks drafted in the first round. Christian Ponder, E.J. Manuel. Hey, the guys who will never be worth any contract extension. This is Staxxx and Shaggy on GoMileHigh.com. We'll be back.
Hey Colorado sports fans, you're listening to GoMileHigh.com, a student-operated station live from the Colorado Media School studios here in Belmar, giving you a different perspective on all things current.
Stop torturing yourself, man! Live in the now!
So stay tuned to see what's coming up next on GoMileHigh.com, Colorado's sports lifestyle.
Showing!
Every day, across this country, hundreds of college radio stations take to the air, broadcasting music and programming that you won't hear anywhere else.
It's one of the last places where people can really be able to actually say what they want to say.
Without it, you wouldn't have a place for local artists to perform. Certain people need to have a chance, a fighting chance, and college radio is that place for it.
College radio changes the lives of those who are involved with it and can change those who listen to it too.
This is where we start out, from getting all this great experience working in college radio. It makes you want to work in real radio.
College radio means finding yourself. It helped me find what I wanted to do in not only school, but in life.
So support college radio by continuing to listen to this station and supporting the students who make it happen. College radio, now, more than ever. A message brought to you by this station and the College Radio Foundation. For more information, please visit collegeradio.org.
I'm taking a trip over to Tibet, see the sights, climb a hill or two. But I remember, oh man, I got one guy out here who I actually know. So I give an old ringy-dingy to the Lama.
What?
The Dalai Lama, his laminescence, flowing robes, grace, bald, striking really. I says to the Lama, hey, you remember that round I caddied for you down in Shangri-La? Well, apparently some station out in Lakewood taped the whole thing. See, the Lama's a big hitter. Nailed 2 eagles in a row that day. Well, he says, what station could have possibly gotten all the way out to my sacred holy lands, the Shangri? I says it was none other than GoMileHigh.com, Lama. They got the best sports coverage in the state. The Lama actually tips me this time, 2-1. So he pretty much stiffed me again, but I got him hooked on GoMileHigh.com. So I got that going for me, which is nice.
That's great.
GoMileHigh.com.
If you have ever dreamed about being on TV or the radio, listen up. Start your broadcasting career today at the Colorado Media School. You'll have the opportunity to work with and learn from actual on-air talent that work within the Colorado media. Within a few months, you'll know how to engineer, produce, and even host your own TV/radio show. I'm a current graduate, and let me tell you, the Colorado Media School has given me opportunities and internships that have helped me take my career to the next level. So apply today at the Colorado Media School, located at 404 South Uppan Street in Lakewood, or visit us at coloradomediaschool.org.
It was great. It was great to see him. And I could kind of sense the relief of him being here finally, getting here and kind of going through all the different things, requirements, protocols, procedures, whatever you want to call it, to get here. So I'm thankful that he's here. He's in great spirits. And I think I can speak for everybody on our staff and our roster. Having him around is just very uplifting.
And that was Michael Malone during a Denver Nuggets team press conference, his comments on Nikola Jokic and his return to the team after testing positive for the coronavirus back in mid-June. Tested for 2 negative coronavirus tests and had a quarantine period. Now back with the team. Had some complications with this flight. Always good to have the Joker back on the squad. Now, it scared everyone for sure when, they had heard the news that he had caught it. That's our centerpiece right there. That's our cornerstone. But here I got a stat for you, Shaggy. This is the all-time ranks of offensive plus minus, and these are the top 5 names: is Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Vince Carter, Chris Paul, and Nikola Jokic. And that's the top 5 for offensive plus minus. Now that's, I think, a little bit different for all around plus minus because that's just ranking the offensive side of the ball for sure. But to be in a top 5 list with names that consist of Jordan and LeBron
and Vince Carter too, man.
And Vince Carter, a name that gets very underappreciated. He didn't play a lot of defense, but
still played offense.
Yeah, but with those kind of names, Chris Paul, for sure, a Hall of Fame point guard when it's all said and done, may not get the ring that he so desires, but at the end of the day, one of the best point guards. Nikola Jokic is, on track, and it kind of seems repetitive here in the Denver market for us to say it, but he's on track to be arguably one of the best centers in NBA history.
And then not only that, but he's one of the best big facilitators. I mean, we haven't seen a guy that big be able to facilitate since Magic Johnson.
And, Magic Johnson wasn't a true 7-footer. Nikola Jokic is a true 7-footer. The last guy I could think of facilitating like that, people try to say Arvydas Sabonis. But I wouldn't say that because Sabonis, he had a all right kind of game. He was more of like a facilitating big. He wasn't like a guy you'd give the ball to all the time. He wasn't a first option. But I would compare Jokic to Bill Walton, an old school, the father of Luke Walton. He played for about 4 seasons. No, he had actually, I think, a career that lasted about a decade, but 4 seasons of where he was dominant until he had a nagging foot injury that cut him short. But Luke Walton was able to carry that Portland Trailblazer team to its only ever championship, and hopefully we can see this with Nikola Jokic. Now, yet Nikola's playing a much better competition than Luke Walton had in the early 70s.
So we had actually an expert source, Josh Dover, predicted that we have 8 years of Joker prime, or a 8-year chance of Joker being able to win. So, I mean, I feel like if in the next 8 years, if we don't win it, we're going to have to start questioning what's going on with that Nuggets.
We definitely are, and that's the thing that makes Joker way better than the guy who I compared him to, Bill Walton. Bill Walton didn't have a long peak. He had like about 3 years, as I mentioned. Then he played, he was a role player with those Celtics teams. They was able to get another ring. But Jokic, I feel, as Josh said, has that longevity under his belt, has, the capability to be a franchise player for over a decade.
So my thing is, I feel like we haven't even seen his best, honestly. We have not seen it. Like, I think that the ceiling is still really high for him. I mean, within his first couple of years, he's averaging like 7 assists. I mean, that's the big man doing that. You don't see a center doing that.
Would you put Nikola in as top 5 Nugget of all time?
Oh, he's already a top 5 Nugget of all time. I mean, I wouldn't put him above Alex English, but, he's got to be up there top 3 already.
Mine goes, now personally for me, how I would rank it, now this is best Nuggets of all time, Dan Issel, Alex English, Jokic. I feel Jokic is just right there from passing English, because English, I don't think if people knows this, has the most points in the 80s scored. A league that consisted of Magic Johnson, George Gervin, one of the best scorers of all time, and Michael Jordan was in there for maybe a little less than, I think, maybe half of the decade. But still, Alex English scored the most points in the 80s, so you got to give him some respect there. Dan Issel.
Would you put Melo up there? Do you have to put Melo up there or no? Like, do you put Melo as a top 5 Nugget?
If he had a better attitude, and that's Melo, so that's hard to even, even say that. But with Melo, the thing is, man, is we got this kind of attention in Denver that we never had when, Melo gave us.
We got the Banana Crew,
he gave the city of Denver recognition that they never had. A guy who came out of Syracuse, just got done winning the national championship. Mm-hmm. People forget
how dominant of a college player he was.
But it seems like a long time ago there was a legitimate argument who's going to end up having the better NBA career, LeBron or Melo. And there was a lot of people that were on that Carmelo Anthony bandwagon. I don't think if you remember when Melo became runner-up to LeBron's Rookie of the Year, Melo was on the NBA Live 05 cover, which brought a lot of debate. And so it was a big legitimate argument for sure.
So if Melo doesn't have the exiting that he has, and he doesn't get swept in the playoffs by the Thunder and then leave with his tail between his legs to New York, because I feel like that really, really took a toll on a lot of Nuggets fans and how they felt about, Melo. I mean, I know for instance, my parents did not like that. My parents hated Melo after he did that. So, I mean.
See, and you got to understand, though, Carmelo's from New York. He even said,
he said before that season it was going to be one of his last seasons if he didn't do something.
The Rocky Mountains ain't got nothing on the Manhattan skyline. He was just homesick, and he was one of those stubborn guys that, you're going to give me what you want. Never had the best relationship with George Karl. I mean, a lot of players never really had the best relationship with George Karl.
As we're finding out now.
Not as now. I mean, I've kind of known this a little bit longer. I always thought George Karl was a good coach, and I'm not saying he's a bad coach, but I thought he was like a player coach. Guys liked him, that kind. But guys are speaking on podcasts like DeMarcus Cousins, Gary Payton,
Andre Miller.
Guys who were actual good, cornerstones of the teams that he coached are coming out saying yeah, George was George, but at the end of the day, they didn't really like him. And I think that's what Melo suffered from. And at the same time, Melo was a hard-headed 21, 22-year-old who didn't play defense.
The problem with George Karl was back in the day, if we were to win the game, he wanted all the credit. But if we were to lose a game, he would put all the blame on the players. I mean, you can't have it both ways. I mean, I feel like almost as a coach, you have to take the credit yourself. I mean, your reason. If you guys lose, it's on me. I mean, you can't. Yeah.
Thank God we moved on from those days. We have better days ahead of us with Michael Malone and Jokic. With Jokic being back.
Oh.
Now this is a question I've had for, a while since, because Jokic was I think the first legitimate star to actually catch the virus. Kevin Durant for sure, but he wasn't going to play either or, even if he didn't catch the virus with that injury. The thing that, I had a question mark for is, what if someone catches, tests positive at a player of Nikola's magnitude, a key player for a team, and tests positive for a virus during a playoff push? How detrimental can that be? Because we know how tight the schedule is going to be. It's only 8 games to decide a playoff seeding. And if you're down like a 3-game stretch where you're missing, say, a James Harden catches the coronavirus, or a Zion Williamson, one of those teams that on the outside looking in, how big of a deal would that, do to that squad's confidence and to their playoff positioning?
I mean, it's going to do a big damage. I mean, it's going to go across all teams. I mean, if you look at it, the LeBron-led Lakers, we all know if LeBron gets cut, if he goes down or AD goes down, we're not taking them. I mean, come on, it's
yeah, but it also I doubt they would be the only superstar to catch it, because for every LeBron catching it, there has to be another one. There has to be another star that catches it. That his counterpart, LeBron, goes down, then maybe a key piece of the Clippers, because man, there's gonna be tests, some positive tests now. For the first couple of days of the bubble, we've actually had some good signs, only 2 positive coronavirus tests. But that's, right now, as I say, if you're going to catch the virus, right now is the time to catch it, because you have enough time to catch the virus, quarantine for a little bit, have time to get those 2 or 3 negative tests, and then get back to with your team. But catching the virus, mid-play, saying when you're in the middle of your 8-game stretch, that's going to be very, very hurtful for your team. And it has a lot to do with players just being smart. You see Rashawn Holmes, Bruno, I don't want to butcher his last name. We're going to call him Bruno, but he's from the Rockets. These guys not staying inside the boundary lines, I think it's just going to be a key part. And it's also going to have to do with a lot of players' experience. I doubt any veteran players are going to be, trying to break any bubble rules, any of that. We do have the hotline, so we're wondering who's snitching on that hotline. My guess, D'Angelo Russell. Who do you think snitching? Chris Paul. Oh, yeah. That's a good one. Yeah, Chris Paul need a ring. That's the only way he's going to get it. Snitching. Hey, man, we're having fun here. We got our third segment coming up, aiming back to a little bit of NFL. When we get back, you're listening to GoMileHigh.com on the Be On There Network. Staxxx and Shaggy.
Hey Colorado sports fans, you're listening to GoMileHigh.com, a student-operated station live from the Colorado Media School studios here in Belmar, giving you a different perspective on all things current.
Stop torturing yourself, man. Live in the now.
So stay tuned to see what's coming up next on GoMileHigh.com, Colorado's sports lifestyle.
Showing.
Every day, across this country, hundreds of college radio stations take to the air, broadcasting music and programming that you won't hear anywhere else.
It's one of the last places where people can really be able to actually say what they want to say.
Without it, you wouldn't have a place for local artists to perform. Certain people need to have a chance, a fighting chance, and college radio is that place for it.
College radio changes the lives of those who are involved with it and can change those who listen to it too.
This is where we start out, from getting all this great experience working in college radio. It makes you want to work in real radio.
College radio means finding yourself. It helped me find what I wanted to do in not only school, but in life.
So support college radio by continuing to listen to this station and supporting the students who make it happen. College radio, now, more than ever. A message brought to you by this station and the College Radio Foundation. For more information, please visit collegeradio.org.
I'm taking a trip over to Tibet, see the sights, climb a hill or two. But I remember, oh man, I got one guy out here who I actually know. So I give an old ringy-dingy to the Lama.
What?
The Dalai Lama, his laminescence, flowing robes, the grace, bald, striking really. I says to the Lama, hey, you remember that round I caddied for you down in Shangri-La? Well, apparently some station out in Lakewood taped the whole thing. See, the Lama's a big hitter. Nailed 2 eagles in a row that day. Well, he says, what station could have possibly gotten all the way out to my sacred holy lands, the Shangri? I says it was none other than GoMileHigh.com, Lama. They got the best sports coverage in the state. The Lama actually tips me this time, 2-1. So he pretty much stiffed me again. But I got him hooked on GoMileHigh.com. So I got that going for me, which is nice.
That's great.
GoMileHigh.com.
If you have ever dreamed about being on TV or the radio, listen up. Start your broadcasting career today at the Colorado Media School. You'll have the opportunity to work with and learn from actual on-air talent that work within the Colorado media. Within a few months, you'll know how to engineer, produce, and even host your own TV/radio show. I'm a current graduate, and let me tell you, the Colorado Media School has given me opportunities and internships that have helped me take my career to the next level. So apply today at the Colorado Media School, located at 404 South Uppan Street in Lakewood, or visit us at coloradomediaschool.org.
You see a post here about, face mask that's covering the mouth. Like, guys are not going to wear that. So we have to come down to a solution and figure out what we want to do. Because, obviously I want to play, but, it's a lot of health facts and risk that goes into this. And a lot of guys with families, don't want to risk that. So, if we could find a way to make it safe for everyone, then let's do it. But, we need to come down with a conclusion for something pretty soon.
And we want to credit ESPN for that sound. That was Melvin Gordon on his thoughts of the NFL's new rule of wearing some sort of facial protection, concerning with COVID-19. Melvin Gordon pretty much coming out saying, I'm not going to wear this face protection. And which is leading to the theory of me thinking, could this be the first player that comes out for the NFL that comes and says, I'm not playing because of the virus?
Come on, man.
Could it? Could it be? I mean, I'm in leaning towards that Melvin Gordon is under the impression of not playing this year, and which kind of excites me because I don't really felt any purpose for Melvin Gordon. We already had a number one. Yeah, we know the league is a kind of a two-back system now, but I feel with Phillip Lindsay as our number one, and I feel like he could carry the squad.
Yeah, so the reason that the Broncos got Melvin Gordon is Phillip Lindsay is a pure rushing running back. He's not a receiving running back. You're not going to see him coming out the backfield catching 50 to 70 balls. I mean, that's something that Melvin Gordon has done and has done very well in San Diego and as well as in Los Angeles.
Red zone. He is a wonderful red zone back.
So
Lindsay, not the biggest guy in the red zone.
They have Lindsay, I believe, for between the 20s to get the yards, and then when you get to the red zone, you have to give it to Melvin Gordon. I mean, Melvin Gordon's been the top 3 with Todd Gurley and Ezekiel Elliott as a top 3 red zone back. I mean, when you get down there, you want to give it to him. Like, there's no one else that you want to give it to. I mean, I'm not going to have my rookie quarterback throwing all these passes towards the end zone, risking an interception. I'd rather give it to a running back that I know is going to get the yards.
The thing with Melvin Gordon, though, is guy averaged, I think, 3.8 yards per carry. He was under 4 yards per carry last year. The year before that was 5 yards per carry. He's been able to show he's capable of those kind of stats. I just honestly really think with bringing Melvin Gordon in for $8 million a year, it kind of puts a threat onto Lindsay, because I feel this is the kind of system where you only need one running back. Now, of course, don't give him 25 to 30 carries a game. Have Melvin Gordon in those kind of situational football, but you're paying him to do 8 years. You're paying him way more than to do what he should be when you have a number one or legitimate number one in Phillip Lindsay.
So I actually looked it up. Phillip Lindsay has actually never caught over 30 balls in a season, whereas Melvin Gordon has caught 58 balls.
Who's throwing to Phillip Lindsay, though?
What was that?
Who's throwing to Phillip Lindsay, though? Phillip Rivers was Melvin Gordon's quarterback, a guy who loves to cater to his backs. Who's been Phillip Lindsay's quarterbacks throughout his career?
Case Keenum, and as well as Brandon Allen and Joe Flacco.
So you can't really put too much on Lindsay's shoulders. They're gonna run the ball off more than not than try to just dump it off into the flat. It might as well hand it off. Melvin Gordon, the reason why he got all those receptions is because they let him play in the shotgun. Of course, with Phillip Rivers being the statue quarterback he is.
So they're gonna be giving the ball to Melvin Gordon in the end zone, and not only that, but they're gonna be throwing the ball to Melvin Gordon. I don't really see a scenario where they're gonna be giving Phillip Lindsay 30 to 40 targets out the backfield. When especially you have a running back that has already been proven in the NFL that can do that with a legitimate quarterback, it's going to help Drew Lock a lot. Think about this.
But
you double team Noah Fant or you double team Jerry Jeudy, and then as well as you play man board across the board. You're going to leave the running back most likely one-on-one with the linebacker. If you're doing Melvin Gordon one-on-one with the linebacker, I'm taking him every time. I mean, that's a mismatch every time.
When you're doubling, you said Fant
or Jeudy, because they're going to have to have to double one of the two.
You got Sutton open. So come on.
My bad. So you double weapons, Sutton, man. Or you double Noah Fant, and then you have one-on-one coverage across the board. That means most likely he's going to be out there with the linebacker covering him. I mean, Melvin Gordon can beat most linebackers in the NFL.
He is a phenomenal in the receiving game. I just don't see him having 50 receptions, maybe somewhere around 20 receptions, somewhere around that. I just think with how many weapons that are out on the outside, spread it around, consisting of Noah Fant, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy. Hey, you could even throw Tim Patrick. I'm pretty high on Tim Patrick. I don't think he's gonna make a whole lot of noise, but I like receivers who are 6'5", those tall, lengthy receivers. But if you can, if you have those weapons on there, man, you're not gonna really be throwing to your backfield. Now, when you throw to your backfield, it's always kind of like a safety blanket, just because it's picking up 2 yards is some kind of yards, and that's how I always viewed the flat. And to Tom Brady, one of your favorite quarterbacks, or your favorite quarterback all the time, he's been one of those guys who has been able to flourish with that throughout his career. He's made a career out of it, just throwing out in the flat to his backs. So I believe it just has to do with having a phenomenal quarterback who has a great awareness, knowing that, you don't have to go to the deep ball or a 10 or 15-yard pass every time. You got those guys in the backfield who can get you about 4 to 5 yards. And if you're getting 4 to 5 yards each down, you're on track to at least get a first down every other down.
So to add on to that, and to add on to the whole Brady discussion, the Broncos' offensive coordinator right now is Pat Shurmur, and Pat Shurmur has been really known in the NFL as a one-back system. I mean, he had Saquon Barkley in 2018, and we all know what he did. And as well as they had 2 running backs actually in 2017, and Latavius Murray and Jerick McKinnon. So we can compare the Broncos to those two. One of those running backs was a really good running back out the backfield in Jerick McKinnon, and the other running back, Latavius Murray, was a really good running back like Phillip Lindsay is, and hitting the hole with explosion. So Pat Shurmur's offense actually really you could see a benefit with these players depending on how he uses them. I mean, he has a lot of players that really fit his system because he likes to run a lot of underneath routes / crossing routes. He likes to run a lot of shallow routes. So I really could see Jerry Jeudy and as well as KJ Hamler, the 2 rookie receivers that they ironically drafted, playing very well in this offense. I mean, it's going to take a little bit because we all know, unless you're in Odell Beckham or Randy Moss, you don't come into the NFL as a receiver and make noise. It's very hard. That's like the one position in the NFL that's very hard to transition over to. The route tree in the college game compared to the route tree in the NFL game is completely different.
The thing about KJ Hamler is I see him being more of a special teams guy his first year, returning a lot, being our predominant returner for sure. But transitioning this to another Broncos, we said Justin Simmons, talking about him a little bit earlier. We had a list from a touchdownwire.com that ranked Justin Simmons at number 2, the top safeties. Now we have 11 safeties. That's just to give you one right there. Now, Jake, I know we were talking about some of our ranks of safeties yesterday. You had Devin McCourty in the top 5.
Yes,
I have McCourty at 11. Yes. What are your thoughts? Are you salty? Are you salty your boys at 11?
No, more or less I'm looking at this, and I'm like, how is Marcus Williams and how is Anthony Harris in the top 5? Like, how?
Anthony Harris is number 1. He's not just in the top 5. Yeah. He's number 1.
Well, when I look at this list, the first thing I saw, and I understand that he was hurt all of last year, but I've always been very high on Derwin James, even before the draft.
Yeah.
He is a hitter. I mean, he is the top hitting safety in the league. The other thing that's pretty crazy, if you look at this list, and that was something that I was saying yesterday, that Earl Thomas, he's not on that list. He's not even top 11. And I was saying yesterday, he's fallen off.
Earl Thomas is not 10 because I have him right here at 10. We're looking at the same list, right?
Oh, yeah. So, yes, yes, he is. I didn't write down number 10.
They have him ranked higher than McCourty.
If I'm looking at both those safeties, as much as I love the McCourty brothers, they're past their prime.
They're definitely washed. They have a little bit of too much detergent on them right now. But, hey, Earl Thomas is still Earl Thomas. He carries a lot of value with that name.
Unless he plays against Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry is a man amongst boys.
Yes.
I feel like watching Derrick Henry run the football is like kind of similar to what Jim Brown
He reminds me of Eric Dickerson. That's what he reminds me of.
Because
Eric Dickerson used to run with his back straight up. He reminds me of Eric Dickerson the way he just runs through
speed,
people.
Though Derrick Henry, you have to have speed, of course, but for the average running back, he just looks like he's lumbering out there just running guys over.
But he did have that 99-yard run. There's only two NFL running backs in NFL history to do that, Tony Dorsett and Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry,
I will give you this, though. Tony Dorsett outran everyone with his run. Derrick Henry stiff-armed and trucked his way to the end zone.
What's a better run, that Derrick Henry 99-yard or beast mode?
Well, I'm pretty sure if you ask Miles Jack, he wants to say Tony, Dorsett because he got stiff-armed out of bounds.
You said Miles Jack.
Miles Jack, remember that guy that used to play for the Jaguars? He got stiff-armed out of bounds. Yeah, Josh is shaking his head. He remembers.
Okay.
I don't think Miles Jack wants to remember, but we remember. Don't worry, Miles. We remember.
Oh, no, man. All right, getting back to it. What I'm really shocked, though, Jamal Adams at 5, a guy who was, I think, a sack and a half away from breaking the for most sacks in the season by a defensive back. Adrian Wilson had 8 sacks in 2005. Jamal Adams had 6.5 sacks last season in 2019. Yet, he did have 6 of those sacks in the first 10 games. So the last 6 games, he only had half a sack. But he just shows his potential of what he can be, not just in zone coverage, but he could come and get to the quarterback. And that's always a luxury when you got a hybrid safety for sure.
Yeah. So, for me, it goes Derwin James and then Jamal Adams. Jamal Adams, so when you watch that game in 2018, yes, it was against the washed-up Gronk, but he locked up Gronk one-on-one. Mm-hmm. They put Jamal Adams on Gronkowski, and he was playing well the whole game. It wasn't until they took off Jamal Adams that Gronk scored in that game because Jamal Adams got hurt for a play. They take out him. They put in a backup safety. Tom Brady targets Gronk, but he was locking up Gronk for that whole game, and there was a couple times where Brady threw to him one-on-one, and Jamal Adams broke the ball out of Gronk's hands. So
yeah,
Jamal Adams is someone that you could put on your tight end, or you can put on your number one, or not number one, but you could put him on your tight end, or you can put him on the running back out the backfield, and he's gonna watch them.
Yeah, Jamal Adams and Derwin James are, I'd say, very similar guys, big hard hitters. I'd say Derwin James is a little bit better in the air than Jamal Adams. Jamal Adams he can't wait to hit you. He can't wait to hit you in the open field. Minkah Fitzpatrick, this one really shocked me how low he was rated at number 8. If y'all remember, he was traded by the Dolphins to Pittsburgh for a first-round pick, and instantly, as Pittsburgh made that trade, he had an instant
impact.
Yeah, instant impact, and they turned around. I believe they won a few games in a row after he had showed up on the squad. The defensive numbers had definitely
They almost
improved.
made the playoffs with Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph at quarterback. Like, that itself is an accomplishment. I mean, you can go 8-8. That's like probably the most talented 8-8 team that you could ever see, outside the quarterback. I mean, they had defense. I mean, T.J. Watt, you have Vince Williams, you got Minkah Fitzpatrick. That's the Steelers have a defense out there. But when do they not have a defense?
Yeah, when do they not? Mike Tomlin, it's like a Belichick system.
But for defense.
Yeah. Well, Belichick's system is defense, though, man. He's a defensive mastermind. That's his bread and butter. And we're having Brady the last couple of years has just been able to complement that other side of the ball. And you have seen every other quarterback that has come out there. Belichick is a football guru because he's always going to have I want to say an elite defense. He's always going to have a capable defense, and he's always going to have a capable quarterback. He's never, he's going to turn a below average unit into something that's, subpar.
Yeah, Belichick's one of those chefs that goes into the kitchen with bread and water and turns it into a 5-star meal.
I don't know how you can do that. We ask Bill Belichick hopefully one day.
Yeah, he's not giving us those secrets.
No,
that
man.
chef is not giving us those secrets.
Top 5 safeties: Jamal Adams, Marcus Williams, Kevin Byard, Justin Simmons, Anthony Harris. Before we go, leave you with this stat. Simmons only allowed 53% completion percentage through the air last year. This is Staxxx and Shaggy on GoMileHigh.com.
Hey, Colorado sports fans, you're listening to GoMileHigh.com, a student-operated station live from the Colorado Media School studios here in Belmar, giving you a different perspective on all things current.
Stop torturing yourself, man. Live in the now.
So stay tuned to see what's coming up next on GoMileHigh.com, Colorado's sports lifestyle.
Showing.
Every day, across this country, hundreds of college radio stations take to the air, broadcasting music and programming that you won't hear anywhere else.
It's one of the last places where people can really be able to actually say what they want to say.
Without it, you wouldn't have a place for local artists to perform. Certain people need to have a chance, a fighting chance, and college radio is that place for it.
College radio changes the lives of those who are involved with it and can change those who listen to it too.
This is where we start out, from getting all this great experience working in college radio. It makes you want to work in real radio.
College radio means finding yourself. It helped me find what I wanted to do in not only school but in life.
So support college radio by continuing to listen to this station and supporting the students who make it happen. College radio, now, more than ever. A message brought to you by this station and the College Radio Foundation. For more information, please visit collegeradio.org.
I'm taking a trip over to Tibet, see the sights, climb a hill or two. But I remember, oh man, I got one guy out here who I actually know. So I give an old ringy-dingy to the Lama.
What?
The Dalai Lama, his laminescence, flowing robes, the grace, bald, striking really. I says to the Lama, hey, you remember that round I caddied for you down in Shangri-La? Well, apparently some station out in Lakewood taped the whole thing. See, the Lama's a big hitter. Nailed 2 eagles in a row that day. Well, he says, what station could have possibly gotten all the way out to my sacred holy lands, the Shangri? I says it was none other than GoMileHigh.com, Lama. They got the best sports coverage in the state. The Lama actually tips me this time, 2-1. So he pretty much stiffed me again. But I got him hooked on GoMileHigh.com. So I got that going for me, which is nice.
That's great.
GoMileHigh.com.
If you have ever dreamed about being on TV or the radio, listen up. Start your broadcasting career today at the Colorado Media School. You'll have the opportunity to work with and learn from actual on-air talent that work within the Colorado media. Within a few months, you'll know how to engineer, produce, and even host your own TV/radio show. I'm a current graduate, and let me tell you, the Colorado Media School has given me opportunities and internships that have helped me take my career to the next level. So apply today at the Colorado Media School, located at 404 South Uppan Street in Lakewood, or visit us at coloradomediaschool.org.
Wednesday night, closing shop up here soon. But before we close up shop, we always like to leave off on a good note. How was the show, Jacob? You felt good about the show today?
I felt good about
Felt
the show.
Positive about it, man.
Oh, I mean, anytime we get to talk about football or anytime we get to talk about the, Patriots, Broncos, or Buccaneers, I love it, man.
All the time, man. Recap. We touched on a little bit of some of the free agency extension of earlier. Justin Simmons getting franchise tag. Derrick Henry getting extended for 4 years. Touched on a little bit of NBA. Joker making his return. Michael Malone on his thoughts of that. A couple of your best top 5 nuggets of all time. And then we closed out the last segment with the top 11 safeties. But now, closing out tonight's show with the 4th and final segment. A little bit of Evergreen Wednesdays.
Right, Evergreen Wednesdays. And I mean, it's only fitting that we're in Colorado and it's called Evergreen Wednesdays.
Evergreen Wednesdays, man.
Right,
it's
it fits, bro.
Wonderful reference for us. Hey, so hit us with a couple Evergreen topics, man. Some questions, man. I know you. Oh no, hit us with the sound first. Hold on. Hit us with the sound. Young Shaggy. We touched though earlier 11 top of I can't even talk, man. Top 11 safeties, and one safety I did not mention that we didn't talk about that I'm surprised to be so low was Harrison Smith. Now the Vikings, they have 2 safeties in the top 10 with Anthony Harris and Harrison Smith. Ironically, they both somehow have the name Harrison integrated in their name.
All right, let's get this little
and
bit of a game
we're
show.
going to leave that alone. What's it that, Shaggy?
Let the games begin.
I had that in there. So we're going to go a little local on this one. And this one I'm pretty sure all our old Broncos fans are going to love. This is obviously something that they probably all discussed at one point in that 99 season. But the question is, and we'll both be getting into the answer and our own opinion on the answer is, what if Elway didn't retire after the Super Bowl in 1998 and came back and played for the Broncos in 1999? Would they three-peat and why?
Would they three-peat? Who was the next Super Bowl champion? Was that the Ravens?
The next Super Bowl champions were the St. Louis Rams.
Oh, nah, they wouldn't repeat. Nah. See, the thing of those Broncos Super Bowl teams was because of their offense. They didn't really have the best defense. Those offenses carried them. And just the greatest show on turf. I doubt that a 38-year-old John Elway would stay competitive in a shootout with the Kurt Warner led St. Louis team with Marshall Faulk, Isaac Bruce, and Torrey Holt.
Yeah, and I actually looked it up. So the winner of our actual division that year was the Seattle Seahawks. In 1999, they won the division.
What was their record?
Their record was, drum roll please, 9-7, and the Broncos' record that year was 6-10. So that is a 3-game.
Brian Greasy took over that year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I didn't remember that year because I was like 1-2 years old, but I do remember it not being one of those. It was kind of like with the effect when Peyton Manning left. The Broncos they stunk. After a Hall of Fame quarterback retires, it seems like it's a running trend for us. We just have terrible years to follow it up. Granted, when Peyton Manning retired, that Super Bowl victory had nothing to do with Peyton Manning.
Yeah, they won it in spite of Peyton Manning. Yeah. And to add off what you were saying earlier, I'm going to add a couple things. So the only two teams that have actually been able to transition from a Hall of Fame quarterback to another Hall of Fame quarterback were the Packers with Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers, and the 49ers with Montana to Steve Young. If you look at all these other quarterbacks, Moreno, the Dolphins have still been looking. I mean, they just drafted Tua.
Hey, they had Chad Pennington for like a season.
Comeback player of the year in 2008.
He won the division for the Dolphins.
They had
outbeating the Patriots.
John Elway, because we're taking it local. The Broncos were looking for a quarterback until they found Manning, and even then they didn't find Manning. I mean, Manning kind of plopped in their lap.
We had Jake Plummer took us to 13-3. Come on, modest, not a Peyton Manning at least, but we had a guy who at least carried the ship for 13 games.
The sheep,
yeah. Jake Plummer, though, he wasn't elite quarterback, but he was able to win 13 games in the season. I mean, you did have some phenomenal run games
and a defense too with Champ Bailey.
Yeah.
So, if you also look at it, Troy Aikman after the Cowboys. They're still been. I mean, they have Dak Prescott now, but I mean,
they had Romo for a while. I mean, Romo does get a bad rap, but if you compare Romo's numbers to a lot of other guys in the league, Romo does stack up as top 10 in a lot of categories.
He actually has the 4th best quarterback rating in the regular season of all time.
He just gets a bad rap because he's the Cowboys quarterback.
And
come on now, like if Derek Jeter spent his career losing, Derek Jeter would get a bad rap, but Derek Jeter spent his career winning.
So I'm gonna get back on topic. You said that they wouldn't win. They would play against the 99 St. Louis Rams. So I'm going to take it back actually to the 98 season. And I actually wrote a piece on what if Gary Anderson didn't miss. And I did a little bit of studying and looked it up. The Broncos that year had the 26th ranked pass defense and the 11th ranked rush defense. So we could even go back and look at 98 and say, if they didn't even play against the best team. They played against the second best team that year out of the NFC. If they played against the first best team, that first best team was number 1 in all-time offense, number 1 in passing offense, top 5 in rushing offense, and as well as they were top 10 in points allowed on defense with John Randall. So they could even then, you could see a situation if we go back, adding another scenario into it, where John Elway could only win 1 ring if they play against the best team in 98.
All I can say is thank you, Gary Anderson. I would rather play the Falcons than that Vikings team. Oh, for real, man. That Vikings team was legit. You had Randall Cunningham, ironically, had his best year of his career in the later half. He had Randy Moss, who I haven't seen another rookie dominate the league.
Outside of Odell Beckham, like him.
No, Odell Beckham has nothing on Randy Moss. Yeah, he had that touchdown with that, whatever, the one-handed amazing catch. But what, didn't some guy on the Browns, a tight end for them, have a crazy one-handed catch a year ago?
So, if you actually look it up, the stats for the most receptions, yards, and touchdowns in a receiver's first 3 careers, it's literally neck and neck Odell Beckham and Randy Moss.
You know, I'm taking the freak all day.
Obviously, I'm still taking the freak, but
the freak.
that's insane that Odell Beckham is there. Because, I mean,
Odell
for me,
just
he's a little overrated. I always thought he was – without the catch that he did in Dallas, he's not known.
Oh, I mean, he had that phenomenal catch in Washington. He's had some highlight plays. He just – bro, when you act like a 9-year-old girl on the field, you're going to get a bad rap.
Kicking nets and
bro,
stuff.
You're going to get a bad rap. And there was a piece about – the other day in 2017 how he said that he was on the verge of retiring, and that just to me tells you how soft Odell Beckham Jr. is. Come on, you play professional football. And
so you said in 2017 he thought about retiring. You think that was honestly a part of the fact? So in 2016 they go to the playoffs, they lose that game in Green Bay, and if you remember, that's the beach boat game.
Yeah, where they
they went to the beach party or whatever, and then he goes into that game, has like a record career drops. I think he dropped like 4 balls in that game. But anyway, then they go to the next season. They signed Brandon Marshall. The 2017 Giants had a lot of hype behind them because in 2016 they made the playoffs, had a really good defense. If you remember, they signed Olivier Verner, they signed Janoris Jenkins, and there was one other free agent that they signed because they dropped the bank.
They had Landon Collins on
Landon
the squad
Collins too. Yes, Landon Collins. So they had a pretty good team. And then in 2017 they start off the year 1-5 or 0-4. They lose their first couple games, and the first game they actually win, ironically, was against
Denver.
Yeah, Denver.
I think that was the game we completely fell apart after.
Yeah, that's the fall apart game in 2017.
Yeah, and that was the game Odell hurt himself. He hurt himself in the first half.
So if you think about it, you think Odell was thinking like, all right, I have Eli Manning at the tail end of his career. I've been carrying him. We made the playoffs last year. We were trying to make strides this year, and we did the exact opposite of making strides, and we actually went backwards, and we started off the year with the worst record that you could possibly start off with, 1-4, 0-5.
A receiver cannot carry a quarterback. I don't care who you are.
Here's my backup to this.
Let me hear it.
2013, Eli Manning has 20 touchdowns to 27 interceptions. 2014 with Odell Beckham has 33 touchdowns to 14 interceptions. So his literally numbers flipped.
When that's your only receiver out there, you had a washed-up Victor Cruz. That's management's fault when you're not putting out the production out there for him. Eli only had Odell Beckham, as I said, a washed-up Victor Cruz. Come on, man. I can't even name any other receivers. That's the only guy I could think of. Yeah, you had Sterling Shepard.
He's washed. He's not. You know
what I'm saying? You don't really have any receivers of note that Eli had throwing to. Come on now, man. Like, is Eli a Hall of Fame quarterback? I think so. If Eli's not a Hall of Fame quarterback, then you got to take Joe Namath out there.
You want to hear something that's very interesting about that? You know what Eli Manning's career record is?
It's like even 500.
116 and 116.
Yeah, I was watching the video.
He is actually the only quarterback in NFL history with 100-plus losses.
But he also has 2 Super Bowl wins on Tom Brady. So at the end of the day, he has that on him. Hey,
in other words, he has 2 crazy passes and 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah, and that's all that matters. That's all that matters. Hey, I'll always say Tom Brady only has 2 rings if it isn't for Adam Vinatieri.
So chip shot field goals on those.
It's in for Adam Vinatieri and for that defense. There's like 3 Super Bowls that Tom Brady had nothing to do with. I wouldn't say nothing to do with, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, he definitely didn't drive him down the field to get in the field goal range.
He didn't kick that field goal, though.
Yeah.
He didn't kick that field goal.
Yeah, so I'm thinking Adam Vinatieri was playing the quarterback in the last drive.
And he didn't play no defense for him. He didn't play a defensive snap against the Rams. He wasn't on that defensive unit that shut down the Rams to 6 points.
Yeah, that's also because that's Bill Belichick on that one. I'll give Bill Belichick the first one, but the second 2, those next 2, that's Brady.
I give him credit for that foul. No, I think it's more the Falcons choking than Tom Brady actually making a comeback.
No, so get this. They actually did the tape. Every time the Falcons came out on the field, they would hike the ball with about 20 seconds left on the play clock. That's not the Falcons choking. That's just bad play call.
That's them choking, man.
And also not only that, but that's, again, bad play call. They were up 28-3, and then once they got up 28-3, guess how many times they ran the ball?
Oh, very, very seldom. Because I remember
4 times.
I remember the difference maker of that game is when Matt Ryan got blitzed and he had fumbled the ball, and it was the defense that made the turning point. It wasn't Brady. Yeah, and when you're in a shootout like that, your defense has to step up.
Well, yeah, it's always been like that in any game. Like, it's always one play like that determines the deciding factor.
No, for sure, man. The last evergreen topic, Jake, before we go out of here, let's get a quick
let's get a little quick 2 or 3 minute one. So
last one.
Who was the bigger surprise team, the 2017 Jaguars or the 2009 New York Jets? Who was the bigger surprise team, and why?
See, that's hard because I'd say the Jaguars, because the Jets, they didn't really have any expectation, but like they were in the trend of being a rebuilding team. The Jags, it was just a squad built up of like, I don't know, guys who thought were to be bust and washed up players. Like Blake Bortles was on the verge of like, that was his make or break year, and he wasn't anything spectacular. That defense was
Leonard
just phenomenal.
Fournette too. They led the league in rushing that year too, with 141.5 yards on the ground.
Yeah, and that defense, I don't know why they got rid of it. I mean, I know why they got rid of it is because personality goes a long way.
And not only that, but Tom Coughlin. Well, I heard. So if you look up,
personality goes a long way.
So for me, I'm going to play devil's advocate on it, and I'm going to pick the 2009 Jets because any team that gets to the AFC Championship with Mark Sanchez at quarterback, that's fluky right there. I mean, how do you get to the AFC Championship with Mark Sanchez?
Rex Ryan is a defensive mastermind. He is.
Yeah, he likes two things. He likes to stop the option, and he likes feet.
Yeah, a weirdo. No, man. It is weird because they went to back-to-back AFC Championship games, didn't they? So
yeah, and I'm pretty sure Josh, our producer, actually remembers one of them because in one of them he was actually up on the Colts. Remember that Jets game? They were up on the Colts, 17-6, before Manning started pulling off some crazy throws.
So, like,
one to Dallas Clark.
What's more surprising, the 2009 Jets or the 2010 Jets? They both went to AFC Championship games. Like, that's a debate in itself. The Jaguars, they only had one good year, and ever since then they've like played exactly like the team they were before that year. Like that season came out of nowhere. They had no business having that year. Hey man, go ahead.
Yeah,
Final thoughts.
Right before. So 2010 Jets actually had Santonio Holmes and as well as LT. So they built off their year last year.
They had Braylon Edwards.
Yeah, Braylon Edwards too. Yes, and they had Jeff Amora at tight end.
Dustin Keller.
Jeff Cumberland. They had a decent squad. They had a decent squad.
Hey, we could talk about NFL all day. That's why you should come back tomorrow. Check us out. This is Staxxx and Shaggy on the Be On Air Network. Have a good night.
Hey Colorado sports fans, you're listening to GoMileHigh.com, a student-operated station live from the Colorado Media School studios here in Belmar.